All right, welcome to Beyond I Do. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I did have, well, first I want to see before we get into something.
Nancy made me scared because she said you had something.
I do. It's coming in a second, and it might make you cry, so just be ready.
Oh, gosh.
Let's see, but...
Please don't be talking about Love on the Spectrum.
No.
Oh,
It's a good
gosh,
show, though.
I would
It's a good
literally
show.
cry. I'm
Good
like, Tanner has my heart. If I didn't marry this one,
Okay.
Tanner.
No, I just want to say someone, we always get DMs and messages and comments, but someone said, we had a comment that was, I think, in the DMs. Nancy shared it with us, so I thought it'd be cool just to share some feedback. Somebody said, I absolutely love this podcast. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy lives to educate us people of what a healthy, non-dysfunctional marriage looks like. So that's very nice.
That is really nice.
Yeah, so I'm so glad. I'm always amazed by how many people say that they watch this and listen to us, which I'm going to get to more of it in a second on what surprises me. But I want to say thank you, everyone, for supporting, listening to the podcast, sharing this with your friends.
Yeah.
I know so many people in our church that say they have friends that would never step foot in a church, but have started to listen to this and are starting to see that potentially faith is a very important part of their walk in their marriage or in their relationship. So that's really, really great news. But that being said, I got to step away for 2 seconds because I have something I would say. So I'll be right back.
Oh gosh. Are you going to ask me to marry you?
No.
Oh. I love it. He's got to go to the bathroom. Oh my gosh. Is this going to make me cry? A rooster going too? Where's everyone going? What are you guys crying? Is this a surprise?
I have no idea.
There's nothing special. Like, what's going on?
That's why he didn't tell me.
He didn't tell you. So he wouldn't tell you. Okay, this is, and, oh gosh. What is he doing? What is he doing?
Oh,
Oh.
my God.
Okay, are those for me?
They're for my mother. These are for you.
Thank you.
And I tried to get something that kind of looked like birds of paradise, so she called them rose burst or something or another. So here's why.
So we're very healthy relationship. We're not perfect, but we try every day.
Yes.
You are
Yes.
crying.
I knew she would.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Okay.
They smell amazing. Then they're gonna go right here.
Okay. So I think yeah.
Is there a
That's
card
the way
in?
it goes.
I'm
That's
gonna
a front.
watch them
No, there's not a
again.
card. I told the girl no on a card.
That was so romantic.
So I'm giving you your flowers, not flowers, but your flowers for a reason, because in the past probably 2 weeks, I've heard from very, very high capacity male men leaders who say that they listen to this podcast, which I didn't think they did or would. And they say, however they want to word it, right? They say, I'm so, I admire, some say I'm jealous or whatever at how much your wife respects you and honors your leadership. Like we're not perfect and we do get in arguments and fights, but in terms of what, and then I was talking to another leader and pastor, and they said, the difference between my ministry and your ministry is your ministry, your wife honors you and respects you as a pastor, and mine, my wife just thinks that, that's what I do, but not that's who I am to her. And so it got me thinking. I was like, and I told you this. We already talked about it in person, but I said, man, I am really blessed that's my case, that I have a wife who really honors me and respects me, and not just as a father, which that's a great blessing as it is, but as like a legitimate leader and the pastor. Every man is a pastor of their household, so you also respect me as the shepherd of our household as well, and the spiritual oversight, which it's work for me as well, but you're not a quiet person. Everyone knows you. So you have a domineering personality. Yeah. So it's not the fact that you're naturally passive and a submissive person. So that is contrary to your person. You're a high level leader. You're a high capacity leader. And so the fact that you choose to walk in that way means that it is a genuine choice you make. Yeah. Because you could easily be like, I'm going to try to run my household, and you don't. So.
Yeah, and I think for me, when it comes to the fact that, like, when women are like, I guess we have a unique relationship, and we tried to say when that comment came in, a really healthy relationship or healthy dynamic, however they worded it. I have always honored you as a pastor, even when you were in youth. And I honored just even as when we were friends, I said, man, this man is smart. He's kind. He's humble, but he's giving and loving and intentional and listening. You're never one to, even if I had an idea, and if you didn't agree with it, you're silent. Yeah. Or you would have a different view to where you would look at it this way. You never once shut it out. And then you always were doing it in a correcting, loving way to where when people see me, they see you. So if I'm starting to act out of line, you're quick to, like you said, we've had disagreements and arguments, and you've checked me about who I am. And I think that I respect that more than anything, because I don't ever want to feel like I'm either rude or crude or mean to people around me, because then that just reflects probably what's going on in my life and what's going on at home. So when it comes to you as a leader in my home, you've made it very easy for me. So it would be hard for me. I would just feel like I would just be being a bitter person if I didn't allow you to succeed because of how good you treat us in the home, how good you treat us with me and the boys, and always continually thinking about how do I shut this thing called work off, and being intentional, and always asking me the same, like Will said last week, are you okay? Are you angry with me? Did I upset you? How are you feeling? You've given me a voice and not just shut me out. So it's doing this thing called life together. And you've made me feel like I have a space and place. But I view you not only as my husband, but I view you I'm gonna cry. You're very smart. You're very kind. You lead this church well. And I think you have the same heart of me when people ask me all the time, you don't want to be a pastor? I want God's people happy. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's the same as you. You're not in for the limelight. You're not in it for the accolades. You want God's people saved. Mm-hmm. You want God's people to know the Bible. You want God's people to have a relationship. So for me as a wife, I admire that, because you shepherd our home very well, but the way that you love people, how can you not follow someone like that? Mm-hmm. How can you not listen to someone like that? But knowing that you have the background, the theology and all that stuff too is admirable, because that's hard work. Knowing God's work is hard work, but then knowing God's work and also receiving it, like you had that story with your professor. Do you want to know a lot about Jesus, or do you want to look a lot like Jesus? Mm-hmm. And I think you look a lot like Jesus, although you know a lot, but mm-hmm. you look a lot like him when you're being intentional and doing these mass weddings or doing the men's sprint. And it's as a wife, how would I look to get in the way? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When I know I'm getting them crowns, I'm getting them gems on my crown. I'm in the support of where I know God talks to me to say, I got what I have for you, Ashlee, is for you. And what I have for Adam is for Adam. But when it comes to your marriage, it's going to take work. It's going to take time. It's going to take patience. But as long as you guys can be in the same lane, I'm in the midst. Mm-hmm. As long as you guys put me in the middle of it, I'm in the midst. So it breaks my heart to just see a lot of, and I don't judge or critique, but we're not the right way of a marriage. We're not the way. I think there's other relationships. The way that I admire you and love you, I desire that for women. I desire that for the men to lead the woman and to guide the woman and to feel that affirmation. And so that's what breaks my heart, is when I see some women not supporting their husbands in this such high demand of a position, because it's a lot of pressure. Yeah. And for me to say, that's your thing. What? Mm-hmm. This is a team thing. If it's just his, then you're going to feel the weight of it just being his. If you don't do it together, now you can divvy up the weight. because you're having communication, you're having conversations about what he's going through, or hey, sometimes this isn't for you, and I need you in the family. I just need to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I think that's the hard part is I appreciate the flowers more than anything. I pray for the relationships to hopefully get on the same page to where husbands can be admired and loved and supported. And it takes work though. Yeah. It takes work. It takes
and to
humility.
break the facade, like, probably like our recent big fight was like 2 months ago. And, even we act petty and stuff like that because we were fighting, we were arguing, and you were talking about, because, I'll have additional income that comes in our household. So maybe I'll speak somewhere or I'll talk to a company on leadership or something like that. And so you had just felt like I was working too much, but we didn't really communicate. We kind of missed each other. So you were like, you're working too much. And I said, I'm working to, afford to you take care of this family and blah, blah, blah. And you were like, I don't care about, you don't need to make any more money. I'm fine. I'm, blah, 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 blah. And I said, okay, if you're fine, I'm turning off all your credit cards right now.
And you did.
If you're fine. And then I went in my phone.
He did.
And I went on every credit card that you're connected to.
I went 2 weeks later
of mine.
to try it. I said, excuse me, sir, can you put me back on this?
Well, yeah.
I was like, oh, he was serious. I thought he was just playing his phone on Tetris or something.
No, most
he
of
really
them
did.
And then like we kind of reconciled that night, but then we reconciled more the next day.
Yes.
And so, because there was about, Ashley makes her own income, but she knows for a lot of things. I have credit cards that are attached to my account that she has one in her name. And every once in a while, she'll bust those bad boys out and do whatever she needs to do. And so,
DoorDash.
That night I went on every, there's about 4 or 5 cards,
You
and
sure
because it has her name on it and you could turn it on and off.
Sure did.
And so I turned them all off. And I said, if you can survive on your own income without me busting my butt out there, then go ahead and enjoy. Let me know how long it takes. Well, it only took you about an hour to come back and say,
like,
hey,
bro,
like, hey, let's talk about this or whatever. So we did.
Yes.
And so for most of the cards, I turned them back on, but one of them I forgot. And so you went to use it a couple weeks later, and you were like, hey, do you still have me cut
No,
off
I think he literally sent a laughing emoji and goes, oh, remember when you were cut off?
Yeah, I forgot to turn it back on.
So we do have our,
we have our, some people say, man, that's pretty messed up, Adam. And I'm like, well, that's the level of, when we argue, that's the level of arguing we will do. It's not common, but if it does happen and we really miss each other, my type of arguing is very straightforward, and so is yours. And so it can sometimes really blow up, and maybe they are very far and few between, but when they happen, we don't do anything like throw our rings in the backyard, or we don't ever go, attack our marriage. But what we will do is, I'll do something like that. I'll turn off all your credit cards, So
So
that's very petty.
It's the topipic of conversation. We were talking about that. We were talking,
hey, if you don't like the hours I'm putting in so that you could swipe this bad boy at your nail appointment or whatever, then you work hard, and you want more money, you go get more money, And so
how long do these your arguments usually last? You said it was that like a,
it was about 2. It was a day and a half, because we settled it a little bit.
Yeah, we got Aaron, Erica, Nathan, and Sanaz involved because we were missing each other on some things, and so we got our community involved, and there were other things beyond that we had to talk about, and so. So that night we kind of subtly reconciled a little bit, but by the next day when we got our community involved, they kind of they don't really take sides. They just consult. They consult. They hear Ashley out. She's crying. She's blah blah blah, and just whatever.
And most
she
of the time,
said.
girls, because the girls will what. I think what they do a really good job at in our community is the girls will see Adam's point of view that I'm not seeing, because obviously he's the one that I'm angry with. And the guys will see my point of view and give him the clarity on that. Hey, this is how she's feeling, and this is what she's thinking, and this is what she's saying. Is there certain things did you travel a lot last year? Which, yes, he did. But were there a lot of added bonuses of his travel? Yes, there was. So then on their side too, they're like, you don't think he's tired of doing this as well, but it's all for a reason. So it just goes in seasons where I think just even as a mom too, you go up and down of just your emotions. And it was just one of those, I think I just was in my emotions. I'm like, I just need you, because we had gone, and then our date nights had gotten shortened. So then we started realizing they were like, okay, we were taking the kids more on out instead of just the two of us. We weren't doing as much alone date stuff, or we were doing couples. And it was like, no, we just need each other. And so we had been last year, we were in the midst of everything. We did the sprint. We had 4 or 5 weddings that we did together with counseling. Then we're trying to do things with the boys and traveling. Then he's doing his cohorts and his pastor meetings. So last year just was like a ton, to where at the end when we're hanging out with our friends, I'm like,
she was overwhelmed. I wasn't.
He wasn't.
So that was
yes.
the difference.
Yes,
you know,
I was overwhelmed because I'm
you
just
know.
like, I don't feel like I've been ever stretched than last year. I was stretched beyond means, as far as like feeling like I'm being pulled at from every direction. And so he's done that all of ministry. So he knew how to balance that. I was just like, I just need quiet time and my husband and nobody else. All y'all, even my accountability, y'all can leave, which they didn't need to because they were needed. But yeah, so after that, we were able to settle obviously the issue of what it was, and I was overwhelmed and stressed, and just a lot had happened from like even close friends and family to where I was just like, this is a lot. And when you realize when you're in a relationship too as well, and even a marriage, who are you going to go after? The person closest to you. You're not going to go over your friends. You're not going to go over to your family. The person that's going to get the most wrath, the most stress, the most attitude is your spouse. Why? Because they're easy target. They're an easy target, and it's the emotional target. Like, I'm going to get irritated with you before I get irritated with the boys. So now I'm like, no, I'm going to get irritated with the boys, and my husband's going to get the peace. So, but yeah, I mean, it's very common in relationships.
Yeah. Suffice to say, I'm just saying, like, it's not the, number one, it's not a podcast front, and number two.
No.
Number two, we have arguments. They're far and few between. So that happened the first week of November.
Yep.
So since the first week of November till beginning of February, we haven't had another big fight. We bickers like, what are you talking? Are you talking to me?
Right,
you know, like,
did I think I heard what you said?
Yeah. But other than that, like you were talking about, like an argument to that scale that some couples have 2 or 3 a week, kind of like that. You know,
I think that
they happen.
Right.
They do happen for us.
But I think that's a good comment that you even said, like bickering and stuff. That's not arguing.
Yeah, just being annoyed at each other. Like you do that with your sibling.
Exactly.
You know, you just kind of get on each other's nerves sometimes. Like that's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
There's another funny story. I'll have to use it for a sermon one time because I don't think I've fully talked about it with you. Well, I kind of did, but I was because I was talking to Phil about it, and it's the other day about 3 weeks ago I sliced off my knuckle of my finger with a knife, and it really what happened is Ashlee was in one of those moods that day, and every husband knows it. Like when mom is in the mood, like everybody just give her space. Don't look at her, don't talk to her, don't breathe. And so she was in one of those moods that was just, you ask her anything. She was short, she was rolling her eyes at everything, and so she's upstairs in her room. I'm with my boys. They're running downstairs, and Ashlee's just trying to like get her own time. And you weren't sick yet at that point. No, you might have been sick.
I was sick.
Yeah, so you were sick. No, but it was on the front end of that. But you were one of those moods. So I couldn't find the scissors, and we had got these new electric bikes for the boys.
Yes.
And so they had at least 100 zip ties around everything. So I looked for 20 minutes for these scissors, and I said to myself, if I ask her where these scissors are, she's gonna be pissed. She's gonna be annoyed. I just don't want to deal with it. I was like, I don't want to deal with her. I don't want to deal with the attitude. So I just went and grabbed a knife, and I just started cutting through all the zip ties. There's at least 100 that I cut through, and I'm on zip tie number 99.
Mind you, I hate when he uses knives. Every time he uses a knife to do anything, I stabs his legs, finger, nail. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
So I did the last one. It slips, and then it cuts the whole top of my knuckle off, or my not. Yeah, this is a knuckle too, I guess. The other knuckle, and so it opens it up, and it just starts bleeding everywhere, and I start yelling, and I'm like, oh my god, it's so stupid, it's so stupid. And Ashley literally comes to the top, and she's like, what happened? I'm like, I cut my knuckle off. Blah blah blah. She's like, why didn't you just ask me where the scissors were? And in my head, I'm thinking, because you would not have responded well if I asked you where the scissors were, and I didn't want to deal with it. And if this end result is me cutting the knuckle off my finger, so be it, right? So
I was so mad because I knew exactly where the scissors were.
But they should have been, they're my scissors, and they should have been where I put my scissors.
Well, I'll tell you,
at,
these
okay?
scissors are like, if I'm scared for him to use these, how sharp they are.
They're tailoring scissors.
Yes, they're tailoring. So they're like, yeah.
But anyways, it just, so the next day I'm talking to Phil. Phil's like, what happened? He sees like the blood on the Band-Aid stuff. I'm like, bro, you'll get this, bro. Like, Ashley was in those. I didn't want to ask her anything. I didn't want to ask. So I start using a knife to cut my zip. He just starts laughing. He's like, bro, I know exactly. Every husband knows that when, especially when with kids in the picture and stuff, like when mom is in that mood, like as long as no one's dying, just do whatever, leave her alone or whatever.
If they're in the cleaning mood,
cleaning mood, just shut up and get out of the way, whatever. So it was one of those days. But I was so mad that I couldn't find the dang scissors when that happened because it hurt so bad, and for days it kept bleeding because it was a big cut, and then I had to get like all this stuff and everything like that. But those are multiple examples of like very frustrating things that are happening and arguments. But like to me in my head, we didn't even argue because I cut myself and instead of asking her for the scissors. And
no, I'm looking for everything to sew you up and put it together, and they put me at a mood, and because he's like, he is the funniest person whenever he gets hurt. Because it's like, because you're like, because like he's very outgoing to a certain extent, but then he's very dry. So like his pain is dry. So you're like, wait, are you acting? Or are you? He's like this. And you're like, wait, is this a real emotion right now? Like I'm so confused. When he stabbed his leg, oh my gosh, I thought he was. Oh, I'm dying.
That was real trauma.
I'm dying.
That was real trauma.
He threw Nancy a hole in his leg, and I was like, he was like, oh, I'm dying.
I was putting a gym together for my wife.
Yep. So and then he was slicing and
so I was putting gym mats, like the rubber mats in gyms, and so you have to cut the rubber mat to fit. And I was on my last mat. I did the whole room. And I'm on the last mat, and because it's a small piece, I couldn't get leverage, so I had to get leverage on my leg with the rubber, and I went, and then it just totally missed, or it went through really clean, and then just went straight into my thigh.
Hole.
Yeah, people are really squeamish right now. Our listeners like, stop talking about blood and cuts, because that's kind of how I am. Yeah. So it went straight into my leg, and I'm like, oh no, I'm like in pain, and
I was mad
everything
again.
like that. So
it's funny how wives get mad when you get hurt. You're like, wait, what are you doing?
Yeah, we needed help is what it was, and our wives needed mental health moments. Jeez.
They just make us more mad.
How long is too long when you get into an argument with a spouse? Like, how long is too long when you're like, okay, it's been a week and we haven't really hashed it out?
Well, I mean, the Bible says don't let the sun go down on your anger. So I think a good premise for any married couple is don't let the sun go down on your anger. So if you got to argue till 5 a.m., argue till 5 a.m. If you got work at 6, go to, better to, you'll work better if you know that it's sold out. And then some, which is unhealthy, some people, depending on their history and stuff, like they can't get over stuff until they let time pass. So that's a really sucky position to be in. If someone's like, I just need, 5 days to pass, and then I'll just wake up one day and be over it. And it's like, well, I got to wait 5 days for you to feel like time has passed, like, and I'm not talking about forgiveness. I'm talking about an argument. Forgiveness is different, but an argument, like, just give me time. It's like, well, what are we supposed to do in between the time? Like, go get an apartment then or whatever. Like, but it's like, if we're gonna hash it out. But I've always told Ashley, like, I bought this bed, I bought this couch. Like, there ain't never be a day where you're gonna tell me I can't sleep in my own bed that I bought. You figure out your life, right? Because some couples are like, I just sent him to the couch tonight. I'm like, I'm not going to the couch.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's not gonna, I'm going to bed.
I'm going in my bed.
So we better figure out how to talk to each other because I'm going to go to sleep.
Right. We never have gone more than a day to where the conversation that needs to be had, because I just don't. It's one of the other is going to have to come humbly and say like, hey, we need to talk this out and have a true conversation about it.
Someone's got to be a bigger person every time.
Every time.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part, is because people can be very selfish. A lot of people can be very selfish and say, well, I was right and you're wrong and I don't care and you better come groveling. There are many of times where, too, I think even in our relationship, I don't know if you would agree, but I've come and I've apologized even if I felt like I wasn't wrong, because it's a humility thing. And not to say like I'm going to forget about it and get over it, but I'm going to say, hey, I'm sorry about the conversation we had yesterday that it got heated. Can we talk about it?
Yeah.
It's not saying like, I'm sorry, let's get this over with and I'm over it, you need to get over it, and let's go back to happy, because that's just not, you're not even communicating about what happened. So the conversation, if there is a heated conversation, you still do have to address it, because we've said this in many times in sessions or just even in relationship. If you continue to bury the issues, they're just going to start piling until one day you're going to explode, and then you're going to be bringing up stuff from that you thought you had healed from, or that you had forgiven that person, and you're going to bring it up again, and they're going to be like, I see here, you still feel that way about that situation that happened, or the conversation or disagreement. And I don't think that's fair, especially if you told the person to get over it and you said you're done with it. So be willing and humble enough to just have hard conversations. And I think that's what relationships are, having hard conversations about life, about how you feel, about the family, about finances, about work, about friendships. Yep. It's like what Will and them said, it's a mission. It's an everyday talk as far as like, you're not robotic. Adam and I are far from robotic. This morning, getting in the car, I had to humbly apologize because I have no idea what happened. Adam's putting the car seat in the car, and I did not want to say sorry, but I knew it was my fault because I'd yelled at my son. Adam's putting the car seat in the car. I jump in the car. I'm thinking we're all ready to go. Matthias is sitting here looking me in the face, standing up. I'm like, just sit down already. And then so he goes to sit down, and then
he jumps on the chair,
and this one goes, oh, Matthias, get up. And I was like, what happened? So then he was like,
well, my hands were under the car seat, and you know, in car seats, you have the little levers you have to attach to the little things. And so the whole car seat was on my hands because I was attaching the little back little levers that secure it. Yeah. And so when he jumped on it, the little plastic sharp points went like straight into both my hands, and I'm like, Matthias, get up. You're on. I can't get my hand out.
And then I go, Matthias, get up. And I was like,
yeah.
And then
I'm like, you told him to sit down right now.
He's like, what do you do? Ashley, you were the one that told him to sit down. And then I literally go, oh, I'm sorry. But it was one of those moments where I'm like frustrated and I'm mad and I'm looking at him like, what's taking so long? And then he gets hurt and he's like, but it's your fault. And I was just like, in that moment, I could have been like, well, you're taking too long. You should have done it faster. You did it. And I was like, I'm sorry. It takes everything within you. And I think that's the hard part in relationships. I'm sorry is so hard to say. Yeah. And I think we need to get it in our vocabulary more to where it's okay to say I'm sorry and it's okay to feel wrong, because at the end of the day, anytime I say I'm sorry for something that I may have offended or hurt you on, I believe that you genuinely know that that's what I mean, that I am truly sorry. And you're not saying, one up. You know what I mean? Yeah. Oh, she had to say sorry again.
Yeah.
And I think that when we and you can trust your partner and truly love your partner through everything as far as disagreements or bickering, you come back to say like, this is my best friend. This is who I choose to do life with. Do I want it hard or do I want it easy? The easy, hard way is being humble. The hard way, bickering, angry, selfish, conceited, ego. That's the really hard way. That is you just throwing all of those into your pocket. Yeah. The easy hard is being humble. The hardest part is saying sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, welcome to our advertisement.
Yeah.
So you're watching our episode. We did a short break.
Yep.
What do we got a little break for, Ashley?
Oh, something really, really exciting that when you came home and told me about the news, I was overjoyed, and I hope you had 30 pieces, but you only had one, but it's okay.
Yeah,
we are going to be talking about our new partnership.
Yes.
With an amazing jeweler.
Yes. So we have big news. We've teamed up with the exceptional jeweler, Aaron Barnett, to bring you a unique jewelry experience from precious metals to custom creations. Aaron has it all, whether you're treating yourself or surprising a loved one. So it could be for you or someone you love, okay? Mother, grandmother, sibling, spouse,
Yep.
a loved one. His jewelry is a testament to cherished moments. As part of our community, you get special discounts and a chance to visit his private showroom in Los Angeles. So for anniversaries, birthdays, or just because, discover Aaron's jewelry in our show notes. Elevate your relationships with exquisite pieces from our partner, Aaron Barnett. It's a great relationship that we have because now we can offer great discounts to our Beyond I Do community
awesome.
to hook them up. And so you visit, like we said, visit the show notes and let's get back into the show. All right, so for the last 10 minutes of the podcast, kind of going back to the front, if there are, I'm trying to think how to word it, but let's just say there was a couple here that we were, if they were willing to like be honest and say like what the wife is looking for the husband to do to lead and what the husband wants for his wife to follow the lead. Mm-hmm. If you had to give them some examples on how I lead and why you follow those leads, like, can you think of any?
Yeah. How you lead to where I can follow is 1, you're good with your finances. 2, you're great as a husband. 3, you're great with affirmation. 4, you're walking.
We'll give examples of what you're saying because they may be like, what are you talking about?
Okay. The biggest one that I would say is you're walking in the will of God.
Uh-huh.
And what I mean by that, you don't make a rash or harsh decision without 1, seeking God, and then 2, seeking accountability. So I think that's the biggest thing. And I'm seeing that through fruit, but also I'm seeing that in your diligence and your walk in your daily life as far as your podcast or your listening or your worship or your messages. You're not, your downtime is TikTok, but that's at night. Mm-hmm. That's not like every break you get. You're always researching. You're always finding more. You're always wanting to be better. So as you leading, you're in God's will, but as a leader should always be changing as well and be willing to change. So the fact that I see that as God's will, you're leading and willing to change, I as a wife need to follow and be under God's will and know that. And then 2, being able to be okay with change. So you are an example to me, not only as my pastor, but as my husband, and then as a leader. And so for me, I boldly say you're my pastor. Mm-hmm. And I don't say that as my husband because you're my husband, but you're in God's will. So I'm able to follow you not only as a pastor, but I'm able to follow you now as a wife. So, and what that means to me is I see the way that you shepherd the people and the love that you have for the people in the church to where that's a reflection on us. So it almost takes me out of a questioning, because even with you saying like, oh, my husband is a good dad, then why isn't he a good leader? Mm-hmm. Why can't you follow him? Because he's being a shepherd. Is he lacking as a husband? Because you even just loving my kids, a man's love towards kids is work. Mm-hmm. You did not birth those kids. So if you're willing to not only shepherd the people, but then shepherd your home and your kids, you're loving me through that. because I'm going to love you unconditionally because I know that you love my family, you love my kids. So that's just going to pour out onto me. So that's where that's hard for me to believe, because I'm like, you're a great father, but so am I lacking as a husband? Where in the areas are you lacking? But I'm like, if you're able to lead the droves and or the people, and then come home, ask me about my day, how am I doing? What are the boys up to? Sitting down talking about Matthias, his day, taking that into accountability, or taking in accountability. I, as a wife, find it's easy to follow somebody when he's under God's will. And in a very humble way. Because there's a lot of people that are like, even pastors that are in God's will, that don't lead their home. They lead the people, but they don't lead their home. So that's hard, but you do both. So as a wife, I would say if a wife is trying to have her husband lead, making sure his walk with Christ is stronger than ever. And making sure that he's in his daily word, making sure that he's having his prayer time. And it's not on her too, but if you're finding someone in that sense, it's hard to know. It would be hard for me if I didn't think you were in your word, because then I would be like, if you were out like, oh, I don't need to go to Sunday, I'm going to have Nathan preach. Oh, I don't need to preach this Wednesday, Aaron's going to preach. But if you're continually leading into your word, and you're continually wanting to lead the people of the house, it's easy for me to follow that as well. And so as a wife, I hope I'm not going in circles. As a wife, I just see the attributes of God. I see the attributes of a Proverbs 31 man. I see the attributes of a biblical standing for a man to love his wife like Christ loved the church. Like, you love this church. You love the people in the church, and you do that for me as well. So I, as a wife, but I think what I'm hearing from you is that men are very passionate about many things. Yes. Right? They're very much hard workers. Yeah. They're drivers. Yeah. Most men love to work very hard, and they may do that in entrepreneur sense. They may do that in business sense. But I think what I'm hearing from you is you think that the work ethic that I have in life, both calling and occupation, matches the amount of work ethic that I put back with you and the home. Oh, 100%. And so therefore it's easier for you to follow because you don't feel like you're the mistress to a greater purpose I wish I had. You have never made me feel that way. Yeah, which I think that's what can happen is a husband can communicate to his spouse that, like, you're my side hustle, and everything else I got going on is I have more life when I hang out with my friends. I have more life, and she may be adding to the fact that he don't want to be home. So there's that element too, but it also could be in his energy and his excitement, and your son says, "Hey, will you come out and kick the ball with me?" You're like, "Oh my God," we get it. Right. You're tired. You want to, and that's how I am. Like Saturdays, my son plays basketball 30 minutes away. I drive to it. I sit at the game. I leave to go to prayer at church. And I'm driving 30 minutes one way, 30 minutes back, but I'm trying my best for him each time. And each season I probably only miss one game or something, and it's exhausting, but it's important to put in as much sweat equity into the family as you are maybe in other things that you enjoy. But also I'm willing to do it because my wife also appreciates me when I do it, and you show it. So on the flip side, a guy may say, I've done that before, but my wife could care less. It doesn't do anything. Like for you, when I do the things that are uncommon, you make it a big deal, right? And we've always said, like, when we do premarital, we always encourage the spouses, like the wives, to remember, your husband's like a dog. He wants his belly rubbed, he wants to be fed, and he wants to be told, attaboy. It's like, and as a wife, if you could do those three things from your husband, you'll get Superman out of him. If you rub his belly, touch him, play with him, all that. You feed your husband, maybe not just cooking, but you feed him with, other way you go out to eat, you have food, whatever.
and then you give them encouragement. Good boy, atta boy, you're so strong. You're, you know, like all that stuff like that. And you work so hard for this family. Like if you give him those things, then more than likely you're going to pull the best out of him.
Yeah.
So I think in your case that is what you do, is you pull the best, because if I'm making those long drives or whatever, you're like, you know, there's days that just maybe even on Sundays or other days, but even on Saturdays, I'll come home and you'll say, hey, I made plans with somebody. I'm gonna take the kids to you know, indoor playground, and I just want to give you 2 or 3 hours to take a nap or rest or whatever. And I'm like, oh, that's great. You know, like, and either I'm gonna watch a movie or I'm gonna take a nap.
Right.
But you say, hey, you were present this week. You were at his game and you worked like crazy hours. I'm gonna slip away during the day. You relax. And I think for a husband, for a man, it becomes easier to want to lead and want to be involved when he feels like his wife is reciprocating. Now I have a theory that 90% of all men, if they begin to lead in a separate from what the other people I said to me about how you are and seeing me as a pastor and leader and all that, but just in terms of like taking lead in general, I think if more men became more decisive, more invested on a leadership way, even if a wife is anti that, majority of those women would fall in line under their husband's leadership if he just became more invested and more decisive about things, rather than, I don't care, it's up to you. Where should the kids, you know, where should we go back to school shopping for the kids? I don't know, just go get them shoes. I don't care, you know. But if you're like, no, let's do it. Let's go back to school shopping as a family. Oh my gosh, I love those shoes for him. I love things that you find that as a wife or a mother, she's invested in. If as a husband, you put that energy in and you start to also speak into that, more than likely you're going to see her more and more. Her mind will be like, oh, I start valuing his opinion more, start valuing his attention more. If he comes home and says, hey, this Friday, can you see if we can get a sitter? I want to take you out.
That
you know,
part.
she would be like, you know, a wife would be like, oh my gosh, really?
It's
rather
the
than her
investment,
begging her
much.
husband to take her out, right?
Yeah, because the biggest thing what you just said is very true. Is the investment is like, as much as you invest in here, you invest in me. To saying like, hey, let's go on a date night. Hey, let's drop the kids off and let's just go hang out at the house and watch a movie. Hey, let's go away. Hey, can you come with me on this next trip? I want to spend time with you. It's the investment part. It's the husband, regardless being in ministry or not. It's coming home and saying, hey, I just want time with my wife because I enjoy my wife. And so I think that's what makes it so easy for me to say, I want to take this off your plate. I'm willing to take this off your plate. I'm willing to follow you wherever you're going, because you're wanting that relationship with me. You're wanting to still grow with me. You're still wanting to change with me. You're still wanting to invest in our marriage, but also our family and kids. Because I mean, at the end of the day, we can only bring up our kids as good as our marriage is going to be. So if we're not investing in each other and healthy with each other, how are we going to be healthy for our kids? And so when it comes to that, it's easy to say like, yeah, I'm going to take this off his plate. Yeah, I appreciate him. He doesn't have to drive all the way out here before he has to go to prayer. Or yeah, and my husband doesn't have to call in and miss 2 hours of work to come to my son's baseball game, but he did. And I appreciate that because that shows the investment he has for our family and shows what's important for him other than the job. So as a wife, it's continually seeing the little things and the little things that your husband is trying to do. Because I think we, as wives too, can micromanage everything because we want it to look a certain way. And we end up making it harder for ourselves and for our marriage. Because we're most of the time, I would probably, if you're either a stay-at-home mom or you guys both work, yeah, you may take on the brunt of the kids. And that's just naturally how it happens. Not to say that it's fair and unfair, but I mean, that's where the father will come and step in and be a good dad and saying, hey, Dad, I want to go out and play, or let's do the VR. Okay, kid, I'll charge it for you. Or, hey, Dad, let's go on a bike ride like you did the other day. You put the whole thing together, finger bleeding, and he wanted to go on the bike ride, and you took him. And it's that investment warms my heart and makes me feel good. And that's where the affirmations and the dog, the belly scratch and the food and the love come in. And so that's I think that's the hard part for me. If he's a good father, start sowing either the seeds as a husband to say, okay, I know I'm a great father. How could I have a great marriage? Or how could I be viewed in a light for my wife? And the wife has to be reciprocating of that and not bickering and not being like, well, he should be doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, of course. But should you have an attitude every day? Should you always be picking at what he isn't doing instead of encouraging him with what he does do? And so I think that just change it up. Remember that conversation we had when we said there was a situation where we were like, guy wasn't getting his belly scratched enough, if you know what that means. And she basically said, well, he doesn't clean up. So if he's not cleaning up the house, I'm not scratching his belly. And Adam goes, so tell me this. Tomorrow, he cleans the house top to bottom. Are you scratching his belly?
Yeah.
And what'd she say?
She said no.
No.
She said because, and then there was a new thing.
There was a new thing.
It was like, oh, so you're telling me he can't win, you know? Like,
and I'm not telling like,
and he knows that guys are rewardment-based individuals.
Right.
They are. I plant seed, crops come out.
Right.
So
right.
if you, and I can't tell you how many times I've heard it from guys when they say, when she says, if he just did blank, I would do blank, and then he'll have a list of instances where he's done it. And then the reward wasn't given. And so
that's not fair.
And so then now he's like, I've already done the tally. Men are, you know, you go back to Genesis. It's the men, the curse is they will work hard and they'll have sweat. So men institutionally are farmers. They plant seeds, crops come out, fruit. That's the language they speak. Seed, water, fruit. Seed, water, fruit. So with their wife, if she has some type of unforgiveness that may not have anything to do with him, trauma may have to do with how she was spoken to as a child by her parents, whatever. But if she takes any of that stuff in the marriage without pursuing healing, and healing's responsible for her, it's not, and him, like you're not supposed to heal your spouse. You're responsible to not heal yourself, but go to the Lord for heal. But it's on you to pursue that. So for him, he's going, the amount of times you told me to clean up, I've done it before, and I never got rewarded. I've done it before, and then what they'll say, well, he shouldn't have to do it to get a reward. And it's like, you're right, but the reality is there is an innate instinct of a man that now it doesn't have to be every time. Every time he cleans the house, you have to be intimate with him. But like, if you're saying that's why you're not being intimate with him, and he does it for 4 whole days, and you say, thank you so much for cleaning up after yourself. I really appreciate you doing it. He's thinking, okay, so
and
then when you still go, no, I'm tired, I don't want. Then he's going, whether I clean, don't clean, whether I help her around the house, don't help her house, whether I'm involved with the kids or not. She doesn't. Whatever's important to him. But for many minutes, intimacy.
Absolutely.
She don't match me intimate. Why does she get to have her cake and eat it too? Why do I have to go to work and work 50 hours, come home, be dad all night, and then also have to do clean up myself, take her on dates, do this and that, when all I'm asking for her to do is be more intimate with me, and she's got 20 reasons why it's not possible. She worked hard, she was busy, she was this or that. And so I'm not saying indefinitely that's how it is every time, but over our years with counseling, that's generally how it is.
It is.
The wife is wanting her husband to do 110%,
right,
and he's asking for 10%. A period of increased intimacy, and she's telling why it's not possible. And so then you end up missing each other in that way. Just that now you're not speaking language. Each person starts to get bitter. Each person starts. So, that's why we had always said, whatever you're asking your spouse to do, you better make sure that you're speaking from the heart and that is genuinely what you're asking for. Because if it's not, especially if you're talking to a man, he's going to either has done what you're talking about for a T and nothing changed. All right, like, if you want me to stop ragging on you, start doing X, Y, and Z. And then he goes, okay. He does it for 3 or 4 days. You don't stop ragging on him. He goes, okay, it doesn't work.
Right.
Whatever she's telling me it's going to solve the problem, it does not work. So therefore, I'm not going to do it anymore. Therefore, I don't care. You get people, marriages that become jaded. The husband just water off a duck's back when the wife is really asking for something to be done or be involved or whatever, and he's just going, well, this is the life.
Yeah, we've sat in many sessions too where the wife is talking, the husband's like this.
I mean, he's just yeah, because she's saying everything it'll take to fix their marriage,
Right.
and he's just rolling his eyes because he's saying it's not gonna be true.
Yeah.
If I do what she's asking me to do, it's not gonna be true. That's not what's gonna solve the marriage, you know. And then we got to peel back layers and come to find out that her first marriage was this way, and then we go, okay, let's hash this out now. You know,
yeah, you'd be like, no, that's not true, Ashley. You said one thing, and you're now doing another. Yes is yes, and no's are no's.
Yeah.
And so
it's important, you know.
Yeah.
So, well, it's a good,
That's good. Thank you for my
conversation.
flowers.
You're
That was
welcome.
so sweet.
I think this episode comes out on February 1st too, so it's
That's
start of
pretty.
Valentine's.
they
you
smell
know.
amazing. I'm gonna go put on my desk.
And it was so thoughtful because what did you say?
is.
You got him because of what? A specific. It's
Her favorite flowers are birds of paradise, and so the one that's
These ones.
unbloomed over there.
This one.
Yeah, well, it's these.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
But
Oh, I
this
see.
one's unbloomed, and it kind of looks like a bird of paradise. So
It does.
I asked the girl what it was.
You know what
I
a
was
birds
like,
of
"Is this
paradise
what-"
are?
They're the ones in Hawaii.
The
They're
ones
like
in
the
Hawaii.
little crane.
The ones that
yes,
look
yes,
like
yes,
those
yes,
are
Look
my
like a little crane. Yeah.
favorite. Yes.
So when it's unbloomed, it kind of looks like a birds of paradise like that.
does.
So
Oh, it does.
that's why. But she called it like a sunburst or something.
And then you added some roses in
So
there.
pretty. It smells amazing.
Well, yeah, it was.
Ash, you didn't see this coming at all.
No,
huh?
not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
You're like, did he go to the bathroom?
You're right. I was like, where's he going? What is he doing? No, it was really, really kind. Really, really kind. Thanks, babe.
Yes, you're
Appreciate it.
welcome. Love
Give
you
it-
so much.
He's trying to get his belly scratched tonight.
trying to,
Oh,
you know,
show.
give them flowers.
Oh, show.
All right, everybody.
Bye, guys.
God bless you.